Hey guys, we are in Davie, Florida. According to my GPS, it's Fort Lauderdale. I'm with Ben from Boresight Soltions.
Glad to have you, brother.
You are like the godfather of plastic cuttery. Yeah.
Plastic surgery.
Glock modifications and other guns. I was a SIG sitting here on the counter. You served in the Air Force. You were a logger, dance instructor, meat handler,
hot yoga.
Hot yoga. How did you get into this? And you know, all these years, 20-ish years you've been grinding on these things. How did you get into that?
Yeah, we're about 17 years now.
Okay.
Started doing it, starting working on guns in 2002. I got into it just because I wanted to make some changes to my Glock 19, and back then there was only a handful of people doing this type of work, and I looked around at what was out there, and I didn't really like how it looked or care for it, and so I figured I could do it myself. So first one I did for me, and the rest is history. I think I got a customer here.
Dude, how you doing?
Welcome. What was your name?
Jesse.
Jesse. Nice to meet you, Jesse. We were just recording. You want to be on a video?
Building you a gun, it's like an interview, and you know, it takes a while. That's why when we talked on the phone, I was like, I want to block off an hour.
Yeah, and that was, it was surprising to me because I've gone to some people and it's like sketchy, you know? It's like, oh, you know, yeah, what do you have? And it's like, you know, cookie cutter thing. You know, this is what you have. Oh yeah, this. And then it's like, they don't want to talk to you. Then you don't want to have the conversation with someone.
Yeah, absolutely. So what do you got?
So I got a couple of things. Like I told you, this is the one that's, they're all loaded. They don't have anything. But that's basically my carry, and then this is what I.
When you texture plastic with the heat emboss method, like we do and like most shops do, the texture is kind of embossed and stamped into the plastic over and over and over again. So when you press the texture into the plastic, it presses down, but it also liquefies and displaces plastic, so it rises up. So you got this, you know, this multi-level texture pattern that kind of goes like a mud tire. So what that's going to do is, because it blooms out a little bit all the way around, it's not going to fatten it up a lot, but it's going to help fill your hand a little bit better. And one of the things why our texture is so effective is, if you look at this, you see that there's the high wide peaks and the low valleys. When you grab and squeeze, your skin kind of rolls in and out and helps lock it in place. Right on. Okay, so you see what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah.
So why don't you go back and forth, because this here is the basic duty series package. This is our mid-grade. This is what most people go for because it's loaded with features. I mean, the competition series takes about the same time as one of these, but most people go with this just because everything that's in it works for everybody. Everything that's in it is experience-based. You know, it works. You know, it's not done to look cool or just to, you know.
Function.
Yeah, everything is function-based. If you wanted to add features like frame index points right here, that's an upgrade option. If you wanted an additional reduction like a 1.5. One of the other things our duty series package includes is a glove bevel. This is a modification I came up with a long time ago. It creates more room inside, and it also eliminates a lot of mechanical interference on your trigger finger, because the same thing. When your trigger finger enters the trigger guard, it doesn't enter perfectly horizontal where all it touches is the trigger face. It enters from a downward angle, and it strokes the corner of the frame. So every time you stroke the trigger, you're riding that frame right there. So now with this glove bevel, that corner is removed, it's angled upward and polished, so now your trigger finger is riding a complementary angle on the frame. So grab that and just kind of see what I'm talking about. And that one right there, that particular one is a Glock 19 with our most aggressive reduction. So it's been...
Oh, so you reduced the...
It's been cut apart, put back together. That may or may not be for you, that was the first one I grabbed.
Yeah. Right.
So what we'll do is we'll angle it a little bit further forward, you know, to give you more room for your middle finger, and then we'll radius the corners up a little bit to eliminate that corner on your middle finger, and then we'll polish it as much as we can to kind of get rid of these scrapes, but we can't really go any deeper or higher than what you've already done. So
Anything for you.
hey, these are small. What I'd recommend with this, because you don't have small hands, you got decent sized hands, long fingers. If you went with our duty series package,
It's gonna do some more.
it's, well, a duty series with a level 1 point. Can I peel this off? Do you mind?
Yeah.
Okay. One of the things, in my opinion, that I feel is with this little gun that makes the recoil seem a little more pronounced than it maybe really is, or you feel it more than you do on some other guns, is this hump right here. If you look at that hump, it's very pronounced and prominent, like a ball peen hammer.
Yeah.
So when you're shooting it, that hump is concentrating that snap and that recoil impulse in a very narrow area. So if we did a 1.5 reduction on it, it's going to flatten this out a little bit and kind of make a wider area. Like, it's going to make the back strap a little more contiguous, and this hump is less pronounced. So instead of having one narrow pressure point that the recoil is snapping through, then it's going to be spread out across more of the back strap.
What I feel is that and I've tried different shoes for the different triggers, and it just like, I get a bump here after shooting a couple hundred rounds through this.
Because the tip of your finger drags off the bottom. Okay, what I recommend for that is, here, check this out. The Apex flat trigger, and I stock this for a variety of reasons. I've been dealing with Apex since the very beginning. They make excellent stuff.
I have the Apex.
So you see how the trigger is kind of open at the bottom like this?
Right.
So you got two hooks, and then you got the trigger safety tab that comes through the middle. So when you're pressing the trigger, the tip of your finger hangs off the bottom, and it kind of squeezes through that gap.
Yeah.
And then because it hangs off the bottom, it also drags on the top of the upper part of the trigger guard. Okay.
Yeah, that was happening to me a lot with the
So-
CC P10C.
So with the Apex, if you look at it, the bottom is closed, so there's no gap for the tip of your finger to squeeze through, and there's also that little ledge at the bottom that helps keep your finger from hanging off the edge and dragging on the bottom.
Yeah.
So if that's one of the things that's really bugging you, I think the Apex, like swap the Apex out for this one. It's going to close the bottom so that the tip of your finger doesn't squeeze through that gap, and then it's going to help keep the tip of your finger off the trigger guard plastic every time you press the trigger.
Yeah, the Duty?
Yeah, that's the Duty Series package,
The Duty.
and that one, yeah, this one is just a straight Duty Series package. That package is $400.
Okay. And what's the other package?
The Competition Series?
The competition?
Yeah, we don't have any demo Competition Series, just because it's kind of a basic no frills package. And if you're looking at the Duty Series like this, I can explain to you what you're not getting in the Competition Series, which is almost everything. You know, because in the Competition Series was made to be competition legal at the lowest levels for like IPSC, IDPA, and USPSA, because the rules are pretty restricted. So in order to make it fit within those guidelines, what I always tell people that are wanting to do multiple guns and say you're on a budget or you don't want to, you know, I would take the gun that you like the best and spend the most time with, and go all out on that one. Do the best package that you can afford on that one, and then if you want something more basic on these other guns that you don't shoot and carry as much, then yeah, you don't, you know, like so with the Competition Series, that would get you started with a nice basic package that accomplishes a lot of what you're looking to accomplish. And then later down the road, if you like what we did and you like working with us and you want to, you know, really treat yourself to one of the better packages, then I would put that on the gun that you carry and shoot the most. Like I told you earlier, I love my job. I'm a gun guy, and I'm a shooter, and I get to talk to gun guys and shooters and build guns for them every day. And what I also said is like everything that goes into our work is experience based. It's performance driven. It's just not my experience. It's yours. It's his. It's thousands of customers all over the country going back to 2002. All that feedback gets distilled into what we do, and that's how we continue to evolve and grow and progress and bring stuff out that works and provides a benefit that you can literally see and feel when compared to a lot of other stuff. So it's like working with that specific type of client, it helps us grow, and it helps us, you know, kind of stay at the pointy end of things by, you know, always improving in a meaningful way. You know, it's I don't care about doing something new just to be unique. Like, oh, look at what this guy did. That's cool. I've never seen that before. If it doesn't serve a purpose that actually gives you a benefit, then it's pointless.
Hey man, thank you.
Hey.
I gotta get to the mic.
All right, man. Hey, thanks for your business.
Do you mind if we take a picture, bro?
We get a lot of experienced, savvy shooters, and I can have a very informative conversation with them and get ideas from them. I can bounce my own ideas off of them.
Yeah.
And so what happens is, because our customer base is nationwide, going back, you know, to since 2002, what comes from our shop is kind of the distilled product of thousands of customers' experience all into one. You know, some of the stuff that we've come up with has been a result of a customer saying, hey Ben, you know, I'm having this little issue, you know, what do you think we can do to fix that? I was thinking maybe this or that. I'm like, you know what, that's a real cool idea. I'll try it for you. And if it works out for them, they love it, then, you know, we say, hey, you know what, if it works for them, maybe it's going to work for other people. And we incorporate that into the service menu, and So it's like, everything has a reason. It's a result of a need, and that's what you get from us.
It's not this'll look cool or...
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's not Gucci.
And there's nothing wrong with things looking cool, but that's not the premise of this.
Well, I mean, everything we do, we try to make look nice, because we're a professional company and we take pride in what we do, and you're paying us good.
100%. You've got good aesthetics with this stuff.
I try to, I call them what I call like organic aesthetics. Is I want it to look like it belongs on the gun. Like I'm sure, you're in the construction business. I'm sure you've seen a house, say like, that's 150 years old. It has a very unique style and shape from that time period, and some few generations later, someone bought
just
it,
whack some
and they want to
silly
put an
thing
addition
on it,
and they just slap something onto the back end of it, and it doesn't. It clashes. It may work fine, but it doesn't look like it belongs. So what we try and do is incorporate things that work good and provide a quantifiable benefit, but also look organic, look like they belong on the gun.
And then not, of course, impede or degrade the longevity. Or
yeah, for sure.
Because there's a lot of guys that melt on plastic and it wears things out. And
it's like, like a slide, for example, like a pistol slide, Glock, SIG, whatever. It's a pretty robust chunk of steel. It's got a very long service life of just beating back and forth, of getting super hot and cooling down and recoiling.
Crazy when you think about it.
Yeah, these things will last a very, very long time because they're made to. But then you start taking them, cutting them in Swiss cheese, making them ultra thin and everything. That looks cool, but it does put an expiration date on the pistol.
You see them broken all the time.
I see it happen a lot. Where they're cut, where they're cut very thin. They're very aggressive windows. I've seen them crack, all the way down through the, down to the frame rails and everything because the slide beats itself to death and it doesn't have the, sometimes now they cycle a lot faster unless you change the recoil spring accordingly. Now it's really beating itself, harder and faster and heating up and cooling down, and you end up with a slide that fails long before its time. Same thing with a frame. You really push the envelope on a frame, and there's not a whole lot of material left there to support that abuse.
Yeah.
And
it's nice to see that fad starting to die.
Yeah. Well,
it's self-corrected, I think.
Yeah, it's kind of self-corrected. But also the thing is too say like you got a shooter that's getting that he wants to jump into the custom gun world, but he's not really an experienced shooter. So he gets a gun based on curb appeal. Oh, it looks cool, it looks shiny, whatever. And then he takes it to the range and punching paper with it, it's fine, but then he takes it to a training course, and once he starts pushing the envelope of the gun and himself, he finds the failure points. So as his experience, this is what I see, because our clients tend to be pretty experienced shooters, is the more experienced the client is, they tend to be pretty basic. It's like they don't ask us, not that we do it, but they don't ask us to, do very much cosmetic stuff. Maybe they'll want like a Cerakote accent or something, which is very personal.
And just to go back, when people hear this and you can't see a lot of close-ups, cosmetically it's very pleasing, but it's not just for the sake of.
Right.
Yeah, it's not just, it's not toenail polish or something. It's, and that's the one thing that, your motto, built for the fight.
Yeah, built for the fight.
Yeah,
these are fighting guns. They're duty carry guns first and foremost. But on top of that, we try to make everything look nice because, again, we take pride in our work. Our clients take pride in what they're getting from us, and we want it to, be something our clients can not only trust with their life but also be proud of.
I like that. I'm in a unique position to see lots of guns get shot, right? So I see hundreds of thousands of rounds a year go into the berm or trap, and so I get to see guns break all the time, and they all break, right? We know that, a stock Glock, whatever, they all break. But
you know what? You stack the odds of success in your favor of it not breaking by doing things right.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, I was in a class recently, the stuff that guys will say, why don't you shoot, and they'll throw out like a fancy high-end 2011 or something, and they're like, it's awesome, but that guy that trains with that and competes is home breaking it down, tuning springs. I had a couple friends that shot, I don't want to name companies, but shot for companies that made these guns, and between matches, man, they're rebuilding them. And that's the thing I think, guys don't get when they look at guns like that versus...
Well, that's the thing nice about like the crop of basic striker fired guns, whether, it's Smiths or Glocks or SIGs, yeah, of course. Is they're very basic, they're simple, they're not maintenance intensive. You can, I don't want to say neglect them, but you don't have to be a slave to them either. And as far as changing out parts, you know, as long as you stay on top of your maintenance intervals, which are pretty generous, like with a Glock, for example, then you can, I mean, it's one of those things that you can just shoot it and shoot it and shoot it. And like, oh yeah, you know, now I'm coming up on the, you know, on the round count or whatever, maybe I should change out the springs. So, and the beauty of something like this is you don't really need any specialized tools. You know, you can strip the entire gun down with a punch. If you need to replace a part, it's cheap. You know, you can get it on the internet. And that's why, like, when we tune guns, for example, like with triggers and whatnot, we really only replace a couple of parts. We'll put in a connector. We use ghost connectors usually, and the Apex flat trigger. Otherwise, our trigger jobs are accomplished with really only 2 aftermarket parts. We don't put in lighter springs. We're not really a fan of changing out the recoil spring assembly weight unless it's necessary. Sometimes if you put a compensator on there, it changes how things handle and you got to play with the spring weights, but it's usually not that significant of a change from stock. So, you know, my concept is I don't want to build a snowflake gun that you have to be a slave to, or you have to, if you ever got to maintain it or overhaul it, you got to get specialized parts. I want you to be able to fix and rebuild your gun with stock parts, which are cheap and plentiful.
Let's check the shop out a little bit.
I do the signature series. My guys do the duty series and the competition series. There are some modifications on the duty and the competition that I have to do, like the level 2, for example, where it's cut apart and put back together. So what they'll do is they'll prep everything up to that point. They'll give it to me. I'll do that. I'll give it back to them, and they'll work it back into to finish. But yeah, so the way I set this up was kind of like just a lot of bench real estate where each of us has our own workstation, you know, that is ours. And well, we actually have 2 workstations. We each have one here, and we have one up by the garage door, and a lot of the grinding and shaping work is done here. And over there we do the texturing, because the texturing, the smoke and the fumes and everything, we have it by the garage door so that the air from the fans push the fumes out where it doesn't get smoky or smelly in
It's
here.
quite an operation. You got about 50 feet of workbench space.
Yeah, it's a lot of bench real estate, and I mean normally this is a lot, you know, cleaner and more organized, but we're breaking stuff down
For the move.
But normally we got lots of workstations, benches where things are broken down. You see, like, you know, the carpeted place over there, that's for disassembly and reassembly so that, you know, we don't scratch things up. In certain areas we got like rubber mats and everything, so if something falls on the floor, it doesn't go too far.
Doesn't go to the
but again,
scrap yard.
Yeah, right now it's a little bit chaotic just because we're trying to purge as much as we can to, you know, go to the new place lighter. But yeah.
I like it.
Custom to me implies done for the individual, like a tailored suit. You know, it's like,
I like that.
you know, buying something off the rack, it may fit, but it's not going to fit anywhere near as good as having it tailored for you from the ground up. And that's what we do, is we tailor the gun for the individual. That's why we've got so many packages and options. You know, the 1.5 reduction, the level 2, the Razorback, all of which can be combined back and forth to kind of get the ideal package to really provide the most benefit for the shooter. You know, like say if they got small hands, or they're coming from a 1911 background and they want their gun to point flat like a 1911, we can do a level 2. That's going to lower the, you know, the way the muzzle kind of points high. So it's like, at this point we've got not only a package and an option configuration for just about anyone, but also for any budget. You know, because for years it was just me doing it. And then I introduced once I got my team in and got them trained up, then it was the duty series. And then after that, because people were still like, hey man, I love your work, but I just can't afford it. But I want the peace of mind of going with a professional full-time shop that's been doing it for a long time and is going to be here tomorrow, hopefully. You know, so it's like, you know, I realize that not everyone needs, because we get a lot of competition shooters too, where they have to have their gun fit within strict competition guidelines, and also a lot of people that just don't want any, basically no frills, or they're just on a tight budget. So that's where the competition series came from. So I mean, it's like we got packages that start at 145, you know, going up to, you know, duty series and the signature series. So between the configurations and the options and the features that we offer and the various series with the price points, we got something for every need and budget.
And you do some stuff with ARs too.
Yeah, we'll build ARs. You know, back in the day before we moved up here, we offered more general gunsmithing services, like general Cerakote repairs, stuff like that. But custom pistol side really has kind of taken over everything. So we don't do general refinishing. We don't really do repairs anymore, just because there's no time for it.
Yeah.
Because building plastic pistols is what we got to do all day, every day. But we'll still build ARs. Because I like to build them, or should I say assemble them, because they're kind of like Legos, they're fun. And as long as you get the parts right, the right combinations of stuff works well together.
Yeah, and we've all seen them when that doesn't work.
You have pretty good guns. So, throughout the year, I'll source like a bunch of receivers, like uppers, lowers, barrels, parts, and do like a run of a certain configuration. Like we've done a couple runs that were real popular of 300 blackout pistols, with law tactical side bolts adapters, because then you got this package with an 8-inch barrel.
What do you call it? This swine something?
I don't have a name for it.
I thought you did.
No, I call our stuff like swine performance.
Okay.
It's just a joke about our logo. I don't really have a name for those builds, but they're, they got like a 9-inch barrel, 8 or 9-inch barrel. They got like an arm brace, and then with that folding adapter, that thing will fold up to this big. And
badass.
It's not a Class 3. It's not an NFA item, so you can transport it. You can carry it around with you, and it hits really hard. You're throwing out with subsonics, you can get 190, 200 plus grain slugs coming out of that thing, and it hits real hard out of a very compact package.
Yeah, a lot more than any actual handheld pistol.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. And then you got a nice solid capacity with 30 rounds on tap. It's a hell of a hard hitting package. Great for self-defense, compact. You can put a light on it. You can put a suppressor on it.
Yeah, great for a copper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. But, we do that for fun. Just because people want it, they like it, we enjoy doing it. So throughout the year, we'll allocate some time away from our normal stuff to open up to doing limited runs of these AR type builds. Sometimes we'll do like shotguns, like if I can, every once in a while I'll get a lead on a group of like Remington 870.
I thought I remember you did some of those too.
It's like if I get a lead on some nice police trade-in Remington 870s, I'll
sex them up.
I'll take them, break them down, we'll send them off to our friends out at Bangkok and have them basically do a complete armor level overhaul of them, and turn them into like a ported backboard, really modern, classic,
sexy
shotgun. Yeah,
I like it. I'm excited to get out on the range with you tomorrow. I haven't seen you since April at the last test. Was that April?
The thing is just to find the way that works for you, because what works for me may not work for you, vice versa.
And did you reduce this one here?
This one has two things going on back here. It has the 1.5 reduction that tucks the heel in even further, because I don't like that bump on the bottom. It's a bump down here. It forces the muzzle high. It also has an option that I developed a long time ago called the Razorback. And what that does is that reverses the hump. It relocates the hump up to here, which essentially reverses that inward curvature. And what it does is it fit. You ever a CZ75 or a Browning High Power? Familiar?